Alright, what's up guys? This video is going to be a little bit different than usual. I'm going to be doing the first part of a video series where I kind of go through a programming language called Python and kind of give the fundamental steps of how to program. So if anybody's ever been interested in potentially getting a career or just earning some money on the side or potentially just having a hobby or learning how to code, this is a great way to do it. I'm going to go through the absolute beginning steps. So if I miss anything, comment down below what exactly I maybe sped over, or if you want any more context on anything. It's been a while since I've gone through the absolute beginning steps, but it'll be a good chance for me to refresh as well. Plus, Python's always pretty cool, and every time you go over it, I'm sure I'll learn something new, or a few things, and just get more refreshed. So if you are looking to program, we're going to start from the absolute beginning. So in order to use Python, you're going to need the tools necessary. So we're going to go ahead and download a few things together. So start by searching Conda in your browser, and that'll take you here. So then you're going to go here, and you're going to go to download Anaconda, and scroll down all the way to the bottom. So this is going to be something called a user interface that you're downloading. This is going to help you program in the language, and it gives I like this one specifically because it gives you a little bit more context when you're programming. It has some color coding and a little bit more visuals, so you can understand what you're doing. Some of them are a little bit more basic, and in the sense of like they don't give you as much information for feedback. And if you're already more experienced and you have your interface already, you can skip over this part. But for anybody who's just starting up, this is a very crucial and important part. If you get lost here, just installing it in general, you can't go any further. So I want to make sure I get this down. So yeah, if you have a Mac, you're going to go ahead and download accordingly. I have a Windows, and I'm going to get the 64-bit. So as you can see, it's going to be downloading down here. And once that's ready, you're just going to go ahead and click it. Bring up the little wizard thing. Alright, good. So then you're just going to click next. Agree to these things just for you. If you want to change where you want to have the destination folder, you can do that. I'm just gonna, okay, I have to go and delete it because I had previously installed it and ran into an issue, so where I wanted to wait. But yeah, so I just fixed that. Now you're going to go ahead and click. For me, I want it as my default, and press install. So you're going to let it do its thing, of course. And of course, when it comes to any kind of software or any kind of tool like this, the very basic start is, of course, installing it and getting through all this process, making sure your settings are correct and the way you want them, adding any little visual adjustments before you actually get into the programming part of it. And so the reason we're downloading Anaconda is because it has a few different user interfaces in there. There's something called Jupyter Notebooks where you can kind of go line by line, and a lot of people like that user interface. The one I'm more comfortable with, and the one I'm going to be demonstrating here on this series, is called Spider. And the reason I like it is because it has some color coding, and I've gotten kind of quite used to it, but there's also something called a variable explorer, which I can show to you. And it just helps you kind of keep track of everything, and it's just easier to work through. And potentially for a beginner, it might be actually very useful to have everything right in front of you instead of having to navigate different places. It just eliminates a little bit of the troubles. Alright, so it just finished up, and we're going to keep on going. Looks like everything's correct. We're going to hit finish. Alright, so now if we open up Anaconda, we should have Anaconda Navigator, and this is exactly what we need. So in the meantime, while this is loading up, I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit of what Python can be used for and why it's, I guess, what the purpose of learning it is. Of course, it can seem very tedious when you're just learning the syntax, which means the language of the code. But the purposes you can use it for are something called scripting, where you can essentially absorb data from somewhere else, manipulate it, and output something. So something like automations for simple tasks in your everyday life, you can make these tools to do them for you, like set alarms or send emails. So it just makes your life easier if you wanted to. And those are just some examples of fun projects. There's different libraries which are basically these blocks of code that you can access without actually coding it yourself, and you can use that code to run your own functions or tools. There's a lot of these kinds of libraries that are pre-built into Python, and this makes this coding language very versatile and dynamic. So you could do anything from enter Excel sheets to create games to import libraries that have to deal with time or math, and they're just built-in functions that other people have already created, and so you don't have to do it again. Yeah, but overall, Python is just very dynamic and in general, just a good language to learn, and it's in very high demand at the moment too. So this is kind of the interface I was showing you, where they have a lot of different options. There's different interactive interfaces like Jupyter Notebooks here. The one we're going to go for and launch is called Spider. So before you start coding, I definitely want you to get familiar with the interface. So this is what it looks like. This is going to be where you write all your code. This is going to be where your output is, and this is going to be your variable explorer where I showed you. The help is going to be maybe certain, I believe if you get like an error and things like that, it gives you a little bit of information, further information. But the variable explorer is also really important. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you a few of how it works. There's when you're looking at this just now, there's no need to understand it. I'm going to show you how everything works, so that way when you are coding your own things, it makes sense. So for example, I'm just going to make a variable called list, and I'm going to make it equal to hello. So when you're programming, you'll find that a lot of people just use simple things like hello and hello world, so when I run this, list equals hello, and if you go into the variable explorer, now you see that there's a placeholder called list, and it contains hello. So we're going to go over a lot of the fundamentals like that, but what Python and programming really is all about, especially in object-oriented language, is setting up your own tools and then running functions to manipulate them or use them. So for example, in this case, I would consider this setting up your own tool that you could use in the future. So now you could do other things with this, like print it or add to it, different things like that, search for it using this context. So as you can see, nothing happened here, and that's because nothing was actually printed. So even though that this code is actually going through, you can imagine that it's just being saved with the rules that you give it. Nothing's actually happening. So if we did something like print, and we put hello in here, we're actually going to get an output. So because we're telling it to return something with this print statement here. So as you can see, when you assign things, it just holds it in memory, and when you give it a command to print and do other things, it'll actually return that. So that's just a little bit of how it's going to work, where you're creating your own tools here. The variable explorer, specifically in Spider, is going to show you what everything's doing in the back end, and here's going to be your output, what the user sees. And then if you're manipulating anything in between, like a file or anything like that, of course, whatever the code tells it to do, it'll happen within that file as well. But that's going to be a little bit more advanced stuff. This is just kind of a basic overview of how it works, how you create stuff here. It holds it here, you can see it in the memory, and then it gives you an output here. So that's why, me personally, I like this. So that's why I chose Spider. Alright, so for the first video, that's essentially it. I'm just going to conclude here because I just wanted to kind of get you the main tool. We're going to go over things like the types of characters that Python can have in future videos and things like that. So we're going to get off the ground, but first I just wanted you to get this and get familiar with it. And really, all I want you to understand right now is that you actually code here. This is where you code. This is where the memory stores it, and this is where your output is. And of course, I only got about maybe 2 years of programming and not consistent programming experience. I have had some on-the-job experience, but if you have any way that you would like to explain this better, or any tips for me as well, of course I'd be happy to see those as well. So just comment down below if you have any other tips or any other things that you'd like me to cover. Maybe something, maybe if you're refreshing over Python and you remember something I didn't, something that helped you that I can mention the next time to help others. But yeah, so we've got the main thing done here. is just installing the tool. From here we can get familiar with all the little functions. Alright, so then until the next video, that's going to conclude this one.